Hello shooters, I love to learn. I've said that before. This episode of TI Goes to School comes from a blog article that I read by Pat McNamara, and I'll post a link to the blog in the description below. But in that blog article, Pat McNamara was talking about when he was active duty. He was talking with this other guy who was from the Army Marksmanship Unit. He was helping with Pat on his trigger pull. And we've all been taught, probably all of us have been taught, that this part of our finger right here is where we should put the trigger on the handgun. And the essence of the blog article from Pat McNamara was, that's not true. And when I first read that, I thought, well, okay, I got an open mind, and I read it, and it made a lot of sense, because the essence of what it is, biomechanically, we as humans, all of our hands are a little teeny bit different. None of, the distance from this joint, the tip of the finger, is going to be different for everybody on the planet. Maybe not as different as fingerprints, but there's going to be minute differences. And then every handgun is different. The reach to the trigger pull, how wide the handgun is comes into play, how much of your trigger finger you can get in there. And so the essence of the article was, find out what part of your trigger finger is best for you. And it will probably not be the classic spot right there. And it'll may be different from each handgun. Probably will be for each handgun, because each of them are going to have a little bit different reach. Here we have a Glock 17. And the way you want to test this is you want to concentrate on a spot and then pull the trigger. And if you had zero movement, that's where your trigger finger belongs. If your trigger finger is wrong, you're going to have a little bit of movement to the right. Or did you see that jerk there? That wasn't me jerking the trigger. My trigger finger was just in the wrong spot. Biomechanically, the way my fingers work, see, it's almost impossible to get a straight pull back to the rear, because see these angles that we're working with? Then you got, these phalanges and all that baloney inside there. So don't believe the hype. Don't believe. I used to, have an instructor. I used to teach. That's where you put I don't teach that anymore. And don't believe into that unless when you test it, that's where your finger belongs. Try your finger in different spots, including in the joint there, and maybe even this side of the joint if you got long fingers. So don't believe what you've always been told about that spot right there. Test your hand with your handgun and see, when you're dry firing, see which way you get the very least amount of movement, and that's where you ought to place your finger on your firearm. Hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it, and we'll see you next time.